Hello and welcome to our presentation. My name is Dan Charles and I'm a part of Group 15 along with Adil Villa, Greg Farn, Pablo Mendez, and George Papadopoulos. And today we'll be presenting on mobile app sideloading. So, what is sideloading? Simply put, sideloading is the installation of mobile applications directly to a device, bypassing the operating system's built-in app store. When the popular platforms Android and iOS were first introduced, they had a handful of basic, built-in apps like calendars and web browsers that were developed by the OS makers themselves. This left space for enterprising developers to fill the gaps for power users who wanted more of their devices, some with more dubious intentions than others. Eventually, both platforms introduced app stores to allow legitimate third-party development for their OSs, reducing the need for sideloading. The advantages of sideloading include not having to use official app stores, meaning no platform could limit what its users could run on their own devices. Alternative app stores can provide apps that may be banned from certain regions for political or other reasons. Of course, a major disadvantage is that by not installing an app through one of the official app stores, there are no guarantees about its legitimacy or its safety.
Hello, my name is George Papadopoulos, and I'd like to discuss mobile sideloading as it relates to Android. First, a historical view. Mobile sideloading on Android has been around since the start of the Android OS and has been available via USB or file system installation. It does require explicitly changing global settings to enable unknown sources that allows app installation. Now, typically, this is not something your average user does. That said, it's clearly not without issue. Looking at Android OS, it bears over 47% of the global malware space. As such, Google has made improvements to the operating system starting with Android 8, known as Oreo and above, where each application needs individual permissions to sideload, which allows for finer control of which applications can actually engage in the process. Our takeaways about Android sideloading are as follows. Sideloading isn't necessarily risky for in-house applications. Organizations that do development in-house or need to do testing in real time may find it a lot easier to sideload applications. Likewise, it's up to individual users to verify the safety of sideloaded apps. More recently, Google has introduced features such as Google Play Protect, which can scan personal or external apps without the App Store, as well as introducing tighter controls such as which applications can choose to overall install or not on the OS.
Hello everyone, my name is Pablo Mendez and I'm going to be talking about some historical iOS stance. Since Apple covered its devices from the jailbreaking activity as a violation of the iOS integrity in 2010 under the Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, the sideloading options have not been present anymore in iOS. For this reason, Apple has banned the sideloading and the jailbreaking because these represent an escalation of privileges process that entails boot or kernel modifications, allowing the users to elevate root privileges and fully customize the devices. As of today, because Apple has declared this activity illegal, according to the DMCA, it's impossible to sideload without jailbreaking the phone or the iPhone. The iPhone economy has comparable safety to the official App Store, which is anti-competitive and forces the companies to pay for the lack of sideloading. Apple wants to keep its devices safer because installing apps from an official channel or third-party sources could install malicious apps that could destroy iOS security. This is why Apple has been antagonistic to this idea. Apple also claims that purchasing apps through the App Store enables accountability, which allows the users to contact Apple support for issues or claiming refunds. According to the last report from Apple about the important role of the App Store protections in June 2021, the sideloading is in debate at the House Judiciary Committee and could force Apple to allow third-party app stores on its platform. This is the list of takeaways in case it becomes ineffective. It is going to be hard for the Apple devices to get official security patches once they are jailbroken. Apple allows certain side loading for developers. Jailbreaking might open it up to potential malware, and third-party app stores don't have the resources to check the app safety.
Hi, my name is Adil and I'll be talking about current events in Android mobile sideloading. When it comes to mobile sideloading, Android and iOS are on opposite sides of the spectrum. Google allows developers to release and distribute APKs to users without publishing the application to the Google Play Store. This allows for great flexibility by allowing users to download apps from trusted developers and allows enterprises to install proprietary software on mobile phones without exposing it publicly in the Play Store. Recent development on the Android side provides promising news about the future of sideloaded applications. A major win for developers comes from Microsoft's recent promise of bringing native support for Android to the upcoming Windows 11 platform. Since 2015, Microsoft has advocated for mobile developers to build on their Universal Windows Platform (UWP). UWP was a system designed to facilitate the transfer of Android applications to Windows without much needed change to the original source code. However, developers were simply not interested and the program was abandoned. Today, Microsoft is building Android emulation into Windows natively through Intel Bridge technology with the integration of Amazon's App Store. The issue with Amazon is that the selection of apps compared to the Google Play Store is magnitudes smaller and so many users will probably not be able to use the apps they enjoy the most at launch. Citing cybersecurity concerns, Windows will not allow the average user to install non-certified applications that originate outside of official channels. However, enabling developer mode will allow power users to install apps through the APK market. As Windows 11 develops, the goal is to provide further support by adding Google's new Android app bundles to limit the need to sideload in the first place. This avoids the cybersecurity concerns that are inherently involved. Overall, from an enterprise perspective, this is excellent news in terms of installing proprietary applications which don't need to be publicly hosted. The fact that sideloading is possible already separates Android from iOS. App bundles, which come with the AAB file format, is a new feature announced last summer during Google I/O, which wraps around an APK and then optimizes it for that specific target device. In other words, Google will have multiple formats of an APK in its library, each targeting a specific architecture and CPU. Some examples being ARM-v7, ARM-v8, x86, and x86-64. From an optimization perspective, this is great news for developers building side-loaded apps. By switching to app bundles, which is Google's proprietary distribution format, Google is taking more control over the Android market. 36 states have filed a lawsuit claiming monopolization of app distribution and payment processing by Google. Google distributes over 90% of all Android apps in the United States. However, they do cite that since sideloading is enabled, they can't monopolize the application marketplace. Statistics, however, show that a very, very limited number of users actually sideload apps, and when they do, Google imposes annoying barriers and warning message, scaring users away from taking advantage of the feature. The lawsuit ultimately backs its monopolization claim by stating that there is effectively no market for Android without the mobile sideloading of Android applications continues to move in a positive direction for developers, power users, and enterprises. However, there are still many barriers to entry for the average user. Most users don't take advantage of side-loaded features out of security concerns with the Play Store, often providing a slew of warnings.
Hello again. It's Dan here to talk about current events around sideloading in the iOS world. Unsurprisingly, Apple's attitude towards sideloading is still hostile. In spite of that, there have been some recent events which may force them to reconsider that position. One of the biggest developments came from the Apple versus Epic Games case. In late 2020, Apple was sued by Epic Games for anti-competitive behavior. Epic is the maker of the popular game Fortnite, which had 350 million registered users as of May 2020. Epic's lawsuit claims that Apple's App Store fees, which are 30% of revenue in most cases, are excessive, and that developers are forced to pay them due to lack of sideloading on iOS. Additionally, Apple's anti-steering rules prohibit developers from informing users of alternative purchase opportunities that would bypass Apple's App Store, which of course bypasses their fee. The trial played out in May of 2021, with Apple claiming that its anti-sideloading stance was to protect users from malicious apps that they couldn't verify if they were distributed outside of the App Store. The judges presiding over this case have yet to make their decision. The European Union is also in the process of introducing new regulations that would affect mobile platforms with the Digital Markets Act. The DMA is meant to make competition fair among large platform owners like Apple and Google and the rest of the app ecosystem. One of the provisions in the bill would force sideloading on iOS to reduce the power of large players. Additionally, there is an ongoing investigation in the EU about whether Google and Apple's App Store fees and their anti-steering rules violate existing EU competition laws. The US has also shown regulatory interest in the sideloading matter. David Cicilline recently introduced an antitrust bill in the House of Representatives that would force sideloading on iOS, among other things. So while Apple does not want sideloading on iOS, they may still have to support it in the future.
Hello, my name is Gregory Farn, and I'll be talking about business and security. As we've seen before, Apple and Google are both antagonistic to the idea of sideloading. They have to think about the integrity of their OS, and sideloading jeopardizes that. Even though Android is supposedly easier to do, they have hoops that they've been under fire for to get to sideloading. In fact, they're in court, similarly to Apple, where they might have to make it even easier to sideload. And so sideloading with it is a security risk. You don't know if the app that you've made or if someone else, a third party, has made, opens up the OS, makes it more vulnerable than it was before. And that's because you don't have a big institution verifying the app's security. Although this has been mitigated a little bit more with current updates doing native sandboxing to any app in Android. So to conclude, you could choose iOS or Android. They're the biggest institutions that are focusing on security and putting the labor into creating a strong OS. And so if you're having a very large program of apps that need sideloading, you might want to choose Android just because it is supported natively. You don't have to jailbreak to get the app on the device, and the security updates from Google will come naturally. It'll be much easier to manage, whereas on iOS, you're going to have to wait for a new jailbreak for an update to gain all the new features that come with it. If you're really wedded to iOS, then you might want to wait for this court case to end. They might have to develop a way to support it natively very easily. Or you could just jailbreak all your devices and make sure that you're keeping them all up to date. And ensuring the integrity of the jailbreak and that it's not opening you up for security risk. And so that's kind of the calculation you have to do when you are choosing between iOS or Android for a business use case. And that's the end of our presentation. This has been a presentation by Adil Billa, George Papadopoulos, Gregory Farin, Dan Charles, and Pablo Mendez. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.